Frank Sedgman was born in 1927 in Melbourne. He was spotted by Harry Hopman during a training session at Kooyong when Frank was 12 years old. In 1949, Sedgman won his first Grand Slam title, beating John Bromwich in the final of the 1949 Australian Championships. In the 1950 Australian final, Sedgman faced Ken McGregor.
Sedgman, this side, has greater experience, however, and that proved the deciding factor. His courtcraft certainly told in the last set.
You know, at Kooyong, for instance, in one of the Australian Championships I won, I played Ken McGregor in the final, and the crowd was sitting on the side of the court on the grass. You know, they had an overflow crowd, and naturally they tried to fit as many people in as possible, so they let them sit alongside the edge of the court. Not too close, but sometimes if you ran wide for a ball, you'd end up in the crowd.
Sedgman has been called the complete player for the all-around excellence of his performance.
Here's the final point.
After winning his first US title and helping Australia to Davis Cup success in 1951, there was a lot of speculation that Sedgman would turn professional. However, Harry Hopman, a staunch opponent of professionalism, launched a Keep Sedgman Amateur Fund, and enough money was raised to purchase a petrol station, which was put in the name of Sedgman's fiancée, Jean Spence. Sedgman then announced he would remain amateur for another year.
I shall remain an amateur to play at Wimbledon and also in the next Davis Cup. That's if I'm chosen.
Frank and Jean were married in 1952, a marriage still going strong more than 70 years later. Sedgman beat Jaroslav Drobny in the Wimbledon final.
Drobny is at the far end.
Sedgman then won the US title for a second year in a row against Gardner Mulloy and turned pro at the end of the year, signing a contract to tour with reigning pro champion and promoter Jack Kramer. He lost to Kramer, then in 1954 competed in a round-robin tour won by Pancho Gonzalez.
A series of brilliant rallies keeps excitement at fever pitch. Top tennis stars showing the skill which brought them world acclaim.
He won the Wembley Pro in 1953 and 1958. Sedgman continued to play on the pro circuit until 1965. Then when open tennis arrived, Sedgman returned to play in a few tournaments, playing until 1976, when he was 48 years old.
You had the Australian invasion. It really was an invasion. And I think the Australians can consider themselves extremely lucky because they had something that I don't think will ever happen again. They had 10 phenomenal young players, one after the other, going from the era of Sedgman right through to Rod Laver. And they just came up one after the other, and they completely dominated the game worldwide for considerable time. And of course, everybody says it was Harry Hopman who did it, the coach. Well, actually, Harry Hopman was captain of the team and was a distinct disciplinarian. And they had to do what Hopman wanted to do. They didn't like him, but they respected him. And you never saw an Australian player of the Hopman era who misbehaved on a tennis court. He was ruthless, and he just sort of ruled them with an iron hand. Because the first of the invasion forces of the Australians was undoubtedly Frank Sedgman, who was a very good athlete. Don't make any mistake about that. Most of them were, but he was particularly a great athlete, as was Emerson. And he was one of the first players, I think, who really sort of went in for physical training with weights and lifts and all this sort of thing that they do normally these days. And he really started that. A good mover, good server, good volley. He was the all-court serve and volley game. But strangely enough, he didn't win Wimbledon until the third time he was seeded #1. He was seeded #1 twice previously and didn't make it. So it took him a couple of years before he won his Wimbledon title. But he was the one who sort of started the idea with the Australian invasion, because they all suddenly wanted to be Frank Sedgman.
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.